Hello everyone, today we are going to learn how to make pita bread on the stovetop without using the oven. It's very easy and it's always successful, so let's see the ingredients and the steps. The ingredients for the pita bread is 3.5 cups of white flour, and we have 1.5 teaspoons of gluten flour. Some people are allergic to gluten flour, so instead I sometimes use guar gum. Works just the same. On every cup of flour, half a teaspoon of guar gum. And we have yeast, a small teaspoon of salt, and about 1.5 cups of water. And here I have honey. You can use sugar as well, but I prefer using honey. So first thing is I'm going to put the yeast on the water. I'm going to put some honey as well, or sugar, just not too much. And I'm going to mix it very well. And I'm doing this because I want to make sure the yeast is well dissolved in my mixture. So I do it in the water first. And then we are going to add the gluten flour onto our flour and the salts. We don't add any oil or anything else, just the flour, gluten flour, and salts. And then I'm going to start adding the mixture that I had ready. And again, we're using the KitchenAid blender with the hook. And if we feel that we need more water, we can do it. It's up to you. Just if you feel that it's too dry or it's not mixing, you can add more water. So now we can see that it looks very moist and soft, so it's good to go. We can pull it out. I'm just gonna play with it a little, just to make sure it's not too sticky. And I have prepared here a big bowl. This is a big bowl because once I let it sit for a little bit, it will get bigger, about double. So first I'm going to spray the bowl with some oil so it doesn't stick and it can be easily removed. And then I'm going to put the dough into my bowl and cover it with plastic wrap so I could let it sit. This is very, very, very important to let it sit. So it could allow the pita bread to rise when I'm cooking it. So it could separate and you can use it for sandwiches. So now it's been some time and you notice that your dough has doubled in size. So this is a good indication of when it's ready. And then I'm going to be dividing my dough into pieces of how I'm going to divide the bread. So here I have ready the whole wheat flour that I'm just going to dip each piece of dough in before I put it on my pan. So again, I'm just dividing them into small pieces. I want the bread to be small, so I could use it for sandwiches. It's very popular for falafel sandwiches, but we want it small and thick. So the sandwich is a little bit thick. It's not too thin. So this made 16 pieces. So it's going to make 16 pieces of bread. And again, now that I have them all on the pan with the dipped in whole wheat flour, I'm going to cover it again with plastic wrap and let it sit for some more time. It's not going to sit too long because the hut is already rested for a while, so this is just about 45 minutes to half an hour maybe. Now after some time, as you can see, each piece of bread has doubled in size as well. And those are ready for cooking. And I have ready here on my stove, I have the first pan. This is a non-stick pan, and I have it on the first eye on my stove. And for the temperature, I'm putting it on less than quarter. So very, very low. This is just to prepare the piece of bread. At the same time, on the other side, I have a rack. It's a long one because I want to use it on the two stovetops that I have here. And for the temperature for this side, I have less than medium, a little, not too high. We don't want to burn the bottom of the bread when we're cooking it because it is very close to the eye of the stove. So this is what we're going to do to prep each piece of bread. I have my whole wheat flour ready. I'm going to dip again each piece of bread, and I'm going to flatten it, not too much because again I want them small and thick. So we're going to use the roller and we're going to roll it on both sides. Sprinkle whole wheat flour on each side. There we go. That should be enough. Again, I don't want it too thin. I want it nice and thick. I'm going to prepare 2, just so the way I cook it. So on the first pan, I'm going to put my first piece of bread, and I'm going to leave it there for 30 seconds. We don't want to put it for too long. And now I have to do it on the other side, again, 30 seconds. Make sure you do it on both sides, because if you don't do it on both sides, it's going to end up bubbling when you're trying to cook it. So once you notice here that it's kind of solidified a little bit, it's not too soft, so that it doesn't fall through my rack or take the imprint of the rack. And then I'm going to take it over to the rack, and I'm going to wait. At the same time, I'm going to put my next piece of bread on my non-stick pan, so I can prepare it while I'm getting the other one ready. Again, make sure you're paying very well attention to the one that's on the rack. So as you can see, it's going to start rising like that, and we're going to continue to flip it to make sure the bottom doesn't get burned. Don't leave it too long on one side. It's okay to keep flipping it. We don't want one side to be completely burned. Then I'm going to move it over to the smaller eye while I put in the new one. So about most of the time I'm going to have 3 at the same time. If you want to go one by one, that's fine as well. I'm just trying to do them faster. So this one rose a little bit, so I flipped it. You can notice they're both rising. And sometimes you're going to notice that the bread breaks a little and there's holes. If you see a hole and it's not rising, if you cover it with the spatula, it will continue to rise because you're trapping the smoke in it. So just trap it for a little bit and it will continue rising as normal. So this one looks good. So I could remove it. Make sure you're watching for the bottom. If it doesn't rise, that's okay. Some of them might not rise, but make sure you're not burning the bottom. So continuously flip. So this one here is rising, as you can see. There we go. That's a good size. I can move it to the back and put on my last piece. So almost all of them have risen pretty well. And now I've waited for them to cool and I've packaged them into my container. You can put them in bags and store them in the freezer so they're always fresh. Personally, I love eating it fresh right after I take it off the stove. But again, if you're using it for another day, it should be fine in the freezer. As you can see, it's very good for sandwiches, nice and thick and small. Hopefully you're able to try it at home and you can enjoy it as well. Thank you for watching.